There's nothing better than getting behind the wheel of a Mustang at an autocross event. But many of my students don't realize how important proper seating and steering position are for performance driving. This video covers the basics of how to adjust your seat and where to put your hands on the steering wheel to make sure you can get the most out of your steering inputs. I use fixed back seats in my autocross cars. My cars don't have to do anything but race around cones, so fixed back seats work fine. But most of my students have factory seats, so I'll use both types to demonstrate proper seating position. 9 times out of 10, I jump into a novice's car and discover their seat is leaned way back. It looks cool, it's comfortable, and it's absolutely terrible for performance driving. At an autocross, you'll be working the wheel harder than you ever have before. Slaloms require quick changes of direction. High-speed sweepers require smooth inputs and small corrections. You're almost always turning the wheel at an autocross, and turning too much will cost you time. The most important part of your seating position is leverage. Leaning too far back keeps your arms outstretched, which reduces the amount of leverage you have on the wheel. And it means you won't be able to turn the wheel as easily or as much as you can with your seat in the proper position. As you can see, I can only turn the wheel so much before my elbows lock. Once they do, it takes more effort to turn the wheel. You definitely don't want your elbows to lock, and you don't want to take your hands off the wheel to reposition them while cornering. By moving the seat back into a more upright position, similar to a fixed back racing seat, you'll be able to turn the wheel easier and further without having to adjust your hands. Here's how to find the leverage position. Place your wrists on the steering wheel so you can bend your hands down behind it. If you have to lean forward to do this, move the seat back forward until your shoulders are touching the seat while your hands can bend behind the wheel. You want to have a noticeable bend in your elbows. In this position, I can get a quarter of a turn past the point where turning got tougher when my arms were straight. I can keep my hands on the wheel, unwind it with smooth control, and make smaller corrections with less effort. At a certain point, you want to steer the car with the throttle to reduce your steering wheel input. That helps you avoid getting crossed up, turning the wheel so much your arms get tangled. Once I have my arms in a leverage position, I know that I'll improve that leverage if I move the seat bottom forward to get closer to the pedals. Just make sure your feet can move quickly from pedal to pedal without getting hung up, and your legs don't hit the lower dash panels when you come all the way off the clutch, gas, or brake. When you're off the clutch, use the dead pedal to help hold you firmly in the seat. Resting your foot on the clutch pedal can lead to disengaging the clutch at the wrong time. 1979 to 2004 Mustangs don't have adjustable pedals or telescoping steering wheels. If you have a tilt steering wheel, you can use that to help get yourself positioned. Most people find a good leverage position to be a bit uncomfortable at first. This is how I sit in my car in an autocross. Shoulders pinned back by the harness, elbows and knees bent to give me as much leverage as possible. I'm kind of packed in there, but I've got just enough room to do my job behind the wheel. Now that we're in a good position to work the wheel, let's go over where we want to put our hands. Drivers are often surprised when I tell them that hand position factors heavily into overall safety. I've seen all sorts of creative hand positions as a novice instructor. One hand on the wheel, 10 and 2, 8 and 4, 2 hands on top, and 2 hands on the bottom are all incorrect. If your hands aren't in the right position, your ability to control the car is limited. You want your hands at 9 and 3, because it creates the highest amount of leverage between one arm and the other, which means you can make smaller inputs at the limit of traction. And your goal in an autocross is to be right at the limit as much as possible. Having your hands in the wrong place, having only one hand on the wheel, or taking your hands off the wheel to shuffle steer like this, or use the hand-over-hand method like this, can lead to overcorrections. And overcorrections can lead to going sideways or spinning, which will ruin your run. But the bigger issue is that there is very little time in between changes of direction on an autocross course. Excessive repositioning of your hands on the wheel will get you behind and make you more likely to miss an element. But there will be elements on course that require more steering input than you can manage with your hands at 9 and 3. There is a way to turn the wheel more while moving your hands less than those other methods. If you pre-position your hands before entering the element, you won't have to reposition them when you're right in the middle of the element. You can adjust both hands on the wheel to get more steering input without losing leverage in situations like pivot cones, where you have to make a slow 180-degree turn. My hands are still opposite one another, but this is how far I can turn the wheel after moving my hands. With my hands at 9 and 3, I get crossed up with nearly a quarter turn less rotation. Many drivers leave their hand on the shifter after they shift into second. Once you shift, get that right hand back at 3 o'clock immediately. Novices tend to hold the wheel in a tight, white-knuckle grip. You definitely don't want the wheel to be able to come out of your hands, but a relaxed grip will do the job. Holding the wheel just tight enough to maintain control provides the right feel for precise feedback. Autocross is about car control. More often than not, novices end up working too hard behind the wheel because they aren't in the right position to capitalize on making the smallest inputs necessary to control their car. Improving your seating and steering position is an easy way to improve your position in the standings.